Welcome to How to Be a Person, a podcast about life with me, your host, Giuliano Grumaudo. Kelsey, how's it going? Thanks for joining me today.
It's going great. Thank you. I am so excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm really happy to have you on. I'm excited to chat. So tell me a little bit about you.
Sure thing. So, my name is Kelsey Green, and I work in the space helping people bring forward, their creative projects, whatever's on their heart, getting things done, things like finishing their book or launching their business. My background is in actually environmental conservation. I have a master's and an undergrad. So, I worked in the nonprofit space doing, various conservation and funding programs
Okay.
and experienced what a lot of people experience, unfortunately, in nonprofits, that extreme burnout, right?
Okay.
Finding yourself like, ooh, this is not sustainable. I was running a side business to, make enough money to live. And then I launched out as
Mm,
a consultant and I served different state and federal agencies in strategic communications and at the same time do that work that I just mentioned, which is
okay.
really holding groups, building community, and helping people bring forward their most creative and heartfelt projects.
Well, that's pretty interesting. So I have started multiple businesses myself. I've also written multiple books myself. So I'm kind of
Ooh,
curious to
nice.
hear what's all involved in that. I've never really heard somebody say that. So when you say that, like you kind of like you're facilitating people like their
Yeah.
creativity, essentially.
Right. Well, I'll just launch into
Yeah,
one
tell
thing
me
I
about it.
think we're going to be talking about today. And that is, yes. So basically, I hold groups accountable to doing the work, right?
Mm,
But one of the things I'm really fired up about right now, and one of the things that can help people in this way is really setting some boundaries around their digital use. So I'm on
mm,
the journey to be a digital minimalist, and I'd
okay.
say I probably live that way more so than a ton of people. I hesitate to call myself that because I have some of the same struggles that other people have
Okay.
with scrolling and streaming and all this stuff, right? And just like really loving some of the sweet tech, sweet apps that we've
Mm,
got at
yeah.
our disposal. But right now, I am really focusing on helping people to set up some boundaries around their digital use because that is really one of the ways that you can help bring those things into existence.
Okay. So when you say like digital minimalism, can you like define what what that looks like exactly? Because I know what minimalism is, but I mean, I'm sure anybody listening is probably curious too, like on what exactly that means.
Yeah, such a great question, a great place to start because I think that the term can be a little scary for people,
Yeah.
right? And just before I forget, I'll just point out this is an amazing book. It's Cal Newport, Digital Minimalism,
Mm.
right?
Okay. He's
He's
written
written
he's written a few other like wait, did he write Deep Work?
Yes. Deep
Okay.
work. Yeah, got it here.
Yeah.
And then most recently, slow productivity, which I think is
Mm.
really useful for knowledge workers, people in more of an office setting, honestly.
Mm.
Deep work and digital minimalism, I think, are great for if you have your own business, you're creating content, you're trying to write the book, right? Things
Okay.
like that. Yeah. So, digital minimalism, similar to, I'd say, minimalism around physical things, it's really about creating an ethos for the way you want to live your life,
Okay.
right? So it absolutely does not mean throw your phone in the river, stomp on your
Yeah.
computer, don't use the tools, right?
Yeah.
And it means how can we use the tools as tools to help us support our core values in the world
Mm.
instead of subvert them, right? So
Yeah,
for
well, because everyone
example,
talks about how like their phone, like I mean, I say this myself, where like sometimes I open up my phone for one specific reason, and then it's like 20 minutes later, and it's almost like, whoa, what just wait? First of all, what just happened? Second of all, what did I open up my phone for again? I totally forgot.
exactly. And as a person that is, putting out content, it can be a very tricky little trap that you find yourself
Mm,
in because you do probably need to use some of these tools, right? And you use them for business. And so I found that a lot of people can justify their use,
mm,
completely abandoning any sort of intention or or
Uh,
values around it because they have to use it for business, right?
yeah, yeah.
So to go back to the idea behind it, it's really setting up these practices for yourself that can support honestly your brain. And I got into this because I was going down a little bit of a well, I was on my journey of healing from deep trauma and
Okay,
recovering from the burnout. I mentioned I was having some physical issues, and I thought I might be one of the women that there's a lot of adult women these days being diagnosed with ADHD,
okay,
and I have a lot of energy, right? And I was having a really hard time focusing. So
okay.
I had assumed that I might be one of these women,
Mm,
right? And I've never owned a TV, so I've probably, and I stream on my laptop, whatever, but I
okay,
purposefully make it a little less enticing.
okay.
Because if I had a huge screen, oh my gosh, it'd
Yeah,
be fun.
yeah.
But
No, we so my wife and I do the same thing. Like we have a projector. So the last time we moved, we got rid of our TVs. And now we have a single projector and it's like a small one that like we pack up and put away when we're not using. So
nice.
it creates this like slight bit of friction instead of just being able to pick up the remote and turn it on. We keep it in our coffee table. So it's like we have to open the coffee table, put it on top and plug it in. And it's not a lot of work, but it's enough that it makes you go,
Yeah.
am I just watching TV out of habit right now, or am I being intentional about like the time that I'm spending watching TV? And it's definitely helped us a lot. So I totally get where you're coming from, like not having the TVs and like you have it on your laptop, so it's not like you have to like log in and all that stuff, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Because people try to convince me, like, or try to gift me, these huge
Oh
screens.
gosh,
And I'm
are you
like,
for real?
like, there's a reason I don't have one. I'm sure it's
Oh,
phenomenal. Like when I see one, watch a movie on one at someone else's house, I'm like, oh my God,
they're like,
these
come
people
get
are
hypnotized like
huge.
us.
Yeah. So, but I think just an important point is that there are so many great things happening in the digital space. Like
Yeah.
obviously you and I are connecting today, and I myself found podcasts to be life-changing as a
Mm,
part of my journey,
yeah.
and I think they're incredible, right? But it's that we are just sort of giving away our attention, our ability to focus, our brains just kind of relinquishing any autonomy we have over it
Mm,
because there are benefits, And so the key
yeah.
is how can you really leverage the benefits, use the tools and not let it use you, not let it
Yeah.
take over your life,
Yeah.
right?
Well, and the thing about it too is that so I feel like there's two parts to this, right? Because you have just by nature of what it can be hard to set boundaries, but also that you have people who are like their goal is to hold as much of your attention as possible, not necessarily for nefarious reasons, right? Just
Right.
because that's their intention, right? If someone owns a business, like myself included, right? Like when you post on social media and people talk about this all the time, or when you're making content, you're like, I have to have a strong hook and you have to
Yeah.
grab people's attention and visually stimulate, right? You're doing all these things because you're trying to build a business or make an impact or whatever it might be. And of course there's going to be some people with nefarious intent, but the point is that not only is it that the technology itself just has an addictive nature to it, but also people are using it specifically to grab your attention for their own purposes, good or bad. And so you have like both of those things. It's like working against you essentially.
Right. Yeah, it is a little bit of a tricky spot to be a business owner that is marketing on the digital platforms, I think,
Yeah.
because it's not honestly, I don't think I would be on social media at all. And I was off of it for a few months before I really started, ramping up the business, and it was amazing. To be off of social
Mm.
media completely is almost it's almost like a privilege these days, right?
Bro, no,
Uh,
okay. No, I totally agree with you. So one of the conversations I've been having with people lately is that like because sorry, just
no,
so
go
you
ahead.
know, like
Yeah.
I go on like just random little rabbit holes here. Okay, one of the things that I've talked about lately with people is about like managing your like mental load, right? Okay, so and obviously this is pertinent to this conversation, but like and you're talking specifically digitally, right? But the
Mm-hmm.
point is that like we are so connected with so much more information than like we're even physically capable of actually wrapping our minds around. And
Yeah.
so because of that, and when I say that, I don't just mean information, but also like the news. And so you try to strike this balance between like, I am a good person and I care about other people. And so I want to know what's going on, but I
Mhm.
also like don't want to go crazy and I want to be happy. Right. And so you're trying to like find that kind of that balance, you know? And I forgot where I was going with this, right? But the point is just that like that's difficult to do. It's difficult because there's so many things like vying for your attention, you know. But like the way that you live your life, like when you were just describing that you're like have just been disconnected from social media. Like I feel like when someone does that, it's like, yeah, this is normal life. Like not being
Right.
connected to social media, that is what life was before social media was invented. It actually was pretty good. Like you don't really
Yeah.
know about all the problems that are going on everywhere else. And you know what? Not to say it doesn't matter at all, but it kind
Mhm.
of doesn't matter for you, right? Because you go, hey, like life is pretty good. I walk around, everyone's kind of nice, the weather's good, like business is up, like it just feels like life is good and like the experience is good. So I'm curious to hear where you're going with this, you know?
Well, I'll just echo your point about balance and,
Yeah.
without taking us down a political rabbit hole at all, I would say, it is tough to figure out for oneself what is that balance of being
Yeah.
informed, possibly doing some activism,
Yeah.
understanding what's happening, paying attention, and managing your own mental health,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
sometimes you may need to step away and manage your own mental health before you are, really really diving in. For me personally, I read more long form essays now, and they're, thank God,
Mm,
it's just these amazing writers out there that you can follow.
yeah.
I'm reading more long form essays. I almost exclusively do not follow any news on social media at all. If I can help it. Of
Mm,
course, stuff bleeds in, right? But
yeah. Yeah.
um I'm really more about looking at the information and receiving it that way. So that's just to one little piece of your argument. But I will mention that this is not probably going to be a revelation for anybody, but, you know, with the increase of connection in the digital space, we are, of course, seeing decreased connection in person.
Yeah.
And that's something that I am so passionate about. So I build communities in the digital space. I have masterminds for women, right? But I also have a course teaching people how to build or rebuild their in person communities,
Mm,
because I think that this is critical for our
yeah.
species, right? And it's the fact that we feel more connected, right? Online, we are commenting, we're liking, we're DMing, we're, doing stuff like this, and this is cool. But meanwhile, that has led to a decrease in us seeking in-person relationships, having intention around building them or sustaining them. And
Yeah.
also, I mean, COVID didn't help in this regard, right? But also we've become just more awkward in person,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so it feels harder, feels more challenging, it's way more vulnerable, right? And I feel like, I'm trying to make sure in my own life, one of the reasons I'm so passionate about this topic is that I want to make sure that I am doing my absolute damnedest to build the in-person community, and I'm helping other people do it too,
Mm.
because it is so important for our mental health.
Yeah, I mean, I can totally get behind that. I I love having the conversations that I have on the podcast. But man, if I could be having them in person, like if I had a studio or someone could be coming in person, it'd be so much better. I seriously, I love connecting with people in person, and
Yeah.
I totally agree with you that like I feel like we've gotten to this weird place where it seems like how can I describe this? Because it's not like a judgment of anybody, but it's almost as if they're they feel like they know what it means to connect with other people. They feel like they know who people are because they've connected with people on social media. When in
Right.
reality, it's like people are not what you see on social media. And I don't mean that in like it's a deceptive thing. What I'm saying is that like you're getting only a piece of
Mhm.
people from social media. And I'm saying whether you're following a specific person, you think you know that person inside and out, It's like you don't. Like even everything you're seeing is just little clips of their life. Even if it's things they're saying, it's little bits of the thousands and thousands of things they say every single day. And in reality, this is what I was saying before about like the comparison between like the news and like,
Yeah.
being worried about everything that's going on, and then you live your life and you're like, oh, actually, like in my immediate
Mhm.
vicinity, everything's kind of good.
Yeah.
Um, it's the same thing I think with people. Like when you talk when I well, like in that conversation, I'm talking about the state of the world, but I think in this context, I'm talking about the state of people. Right. I think
Yeah.
people, it's like becomes such a big thing. People go, people suck. I hate people. People are the worst. And substitute people with any category of people. Right. Like
Yeah.
everyone is like putting people in these categories and like people suck and I hate these people and blah, blah, blah. And it's like you think that you hate people, but it's like you're getting all of that information from like this fake version of reality. And I'm saying this from my own personal experience of like just living my life and talking to people. And I told you this beforehand, and I've said it multiple times on the show. I drove for Uber and Lyft for like more than a decade. And so
Wow.
I had like a
That must have
revolving
been
door of people.
fascinating.
Yes,
Yeah.
like just constant new people all day, every day in my car. And I've talked to
Wow.
people on all different, religions, race,
Yeah.
perspectives, political persuasion, all of those things. And it's helped me to see like, dude, people are not what everyone says people are, right? Like, and I think that's part of the issue is like all you know about these people is what you've seen on social
Mhm.
media. Whereas if you were to interact with this person in person, face to face, it's like I don't
Yeah.
think you would hate this person as much as you do from what you see on social media. Because you see it in the comment sections all the time. I'm like the type of person who just like I see a comment section, I'm just like dive right in, right? And you see people say like insane things, like crazy hateful stuff, and I'm like, nobody would
Would
ever
never.
say this in person, okay? And sometimes you go, well, see, but that's what's going on in their head, and you're like, okay, maybe, but also like tell me I'm not wrong when I'm saying there's things in your head that you probably would never say out loud either. Right? And it's one of those things you're like, okay, so like
Yeah,
where
well,
are we getting our
yeah.
experience from? What we're seeing on social media or what we're actually
Right.
experiencing in reality?
There's a ton of research around this actually, and one of the most disheartening parts I think is what it's doing to young people right now.
Mm,
So there's a lot of research around when, and I'm not a parent, so I'm not trying to go there, but I will just say for parents out there, the book, The Anxious Generation by Jonathan Haidt
mm,
is like such an incredible book, but it talks about the ways that your brain is literally rewired when you're interacting solely through a digital platform than in person, right? So
whoa.
we evolved as a species to be embodied in interaction, which is that we are
Mm,
physically together. And there's
yeah.
so much nuance that happens, that you can't see. We can see it a little bit here on this platform and video, but you definitely aren't going to see it when you're just blasting comments, on Instagram,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And the idea of like, well, what's in people's brains, da, 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 it's just I think it's more about we are losing the ability to sit and experience what it means to have a potentially, not perfect interaction. Maybe we disagree on some points or whatever. We're losing the ability to be able to feel that in an
Mm,
embodied space. And for young people that have grown up only communicating, or obviously, communicating a lot more on the digital
yeah.
platforms, it's actually disrupting their ability to be in the world successfully at all.
Wow.
Right? I mean, they're showing that there's so much more mental illness now for young people, right? And actually the data for adults too,
Oh,
which
sure.
showed that with the increase of the smartphone, so around 2010,
Okay.
you know, even before COVID, right? So
Yeah. Yeah.
smartphones increase, and so does depression, isolation, mental illness,
Mm,
struggles, right? And it's also showing with the lack of in-person community, the lack of just these what do they call them? Just even like weak tie interactions. So like people at the grocery
mm,
store or your
yes.
neighbors. Back in the day, these are people you talk to all the time, and they're
Yes.
probably
Yes.
really different from you. Age,
Yeah.
political affiliation, sexual orientation, whatever, right? They're all so different from you, and you got really used to interacting with these people all over the place all the time.
Coexisting.
Yeah. And now we are obviously in these echo chambers. We know the algorithm is just feeding us more of what we want to hear, or feeding us, this vitriolic stuff that gets us fired up and makes us pissed
Yeah.
off, at these other people. And it's very dehumanizing for sure. And I think just so detrimental for humanity.
Yeah, well, the thing you mentioned about the weak ties kind of thing, like, man, that's so important. And I feel like that's one of the things that I've noticed over time is that less and less people are willing to even engage in those things in the real world. Right. So not only is it just that, hey, that's the pattern that those things are happening less just
Yeah.
by happenstance, but also people in the real world, like refusing those connections. Right. Like when you're standing around, like if you're at the store and you're in line, everyone's just like on their phone. Or like I have, in my neighborhood, I'm walking and like I'll be sitting in front of my house and someone's walking past my house and I'm like staring at them, right? Like, look at me so I can say hello, right? Like, I was like, say hello to you. Or you're just walking down the street and someone doesn't even look. You're like, this is so strange. Like, there's a human being right next to you. Like, just look at them at least, right? Let's say hello, acknowledge each other. But you know what I was
Yeah.
going to comment on too was you were mentioning the mental health thing, because I have a really strong opinion about all things mental health, because I myself, I will say that I was never like officially diagnosed with depression. But just based on what I know depression to be, I believe I was definitely depressed. And so anyway, I'm only sharing that as that's part of my
Yeah.
experience.
Yeah.
But um, in because this is the thing, right? Like a lot of the interpretation of mental health is that, hey, this is like something that's been thrust upon you, right? Almost like, when you catch something, something that, let's say COVID, right? Like you get COVID, it's people act almost as if it's the same thing. Not that it's contagious, but that it's outside of your control, right? That it's something that like you just caught and you have no control over that. And in reality, it's like, I don't believe that that's the case. I believe that there are a lot of, and I'm not saying never the case, but I'm saying in a lot of cases, I believe that there are either external forces or internal thought patterns that are creating those issues. And just from what you said, like the introduction of the smartphone, it's like, well, there's a perfect example. That's a perfect example of it, right? It doesn't
Yeah.
mean that you were born with depression. It's like maybe you don't have boundaries around these digital devices that we're using.
Absolutely.
So I
Yeah.
want to hear more about that. Like when you're talking about, so because, okay, we talk digital minimalism essentially
Mhm.
is I have very strong boundaries around how I'm using all things digital and how much I'm using these things,
Yeah.
correct?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I'm happy to go into that. And I just to follow up on your point though, it's tough to see it happening, right? When you are kind of going down that rabbit hole. I mean, you can usually feel it if you talked about losing 20 minutes scrolling. I mean, people lose 4 hours,
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
scrolling, fucking around, watching
Yeah.
Netflix and scrolling at the same
Oh,
time.
I've
So
done it too. I've done it
yeah,
too.
yeah,
It's been
same,
hours for
same.
me too. I just like
Yeah.
usually, hopefully, it's only 20 minutes before I
Right.
snap out of it.
Of course, yeah. So same here. And the thing that I'm going to tell people up front, and this is what I try to be honest with people about, is that putting boundaries in place for yourself is probably going to be very difficult at first.
Mm,
Just like if you are trying to stop drinking, if you're trying to eat better, if you're trying to start going to the gym,
mm,
whatever you're trying to do in your life, it's pretty challenging at first to create a new
yeah.
habit, right?
Yeah.
It's especially challenging because I agree that in the beginning, I don't think from the research I have done, there were not nefarious intentions from the tech companies to get us all completely zombified, addicted to
Yeah.
phones. Like I don't
Yeah.
think that was the intention. It was truly like people coming up with kind of neat ways to integrate, iPod and a phone and whatever, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
for
but
sure.
these days, I don't think that's the case. It's an attention economy,
Yeah.
and they are the more seconds you can spend, the more minutes, the more hours on your
Yeah.
phone scrolling. They obviously create these to be highly addictive, same mechanisms as slot machines, right? And so
Mm,
I guess I tell people that it's going to be a little challenging when you try to set these boundaries because you're fighting against billions of dollars, super smart people, that, and like cool shit. There's cool shit
Yeah.
online,
And
like
useful stuff, right?
so useful.
Information, tools, all of it.
You can learn anything you want. It's incredible in so many ways. So
Yeah, it's pretty
just
amazing.
to say, like, give people a little bit of grace, like, it's not a fair fight,
Yeah.
right? We're fighting against kind of, something our brains were not designed to do. So giving yourself that space to be like, yeah, this is hard. This is hard, right? But I'll tell you what I'm working on. And this is, again, I just want to come out front and say the benefits are amazing. Like, I can see the change in my sleep, in my ability to focus. I'm writing a book. I can actually do the writing. I
Yeah.
can get my work done. I have clients, all this stuff. So the benefits are great. So the things I'm trying to do are no phone from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m., no screens, right?
Okay.
The exception is if I want to, I get up early, so I go to bed early. So 7 p.m. for me is not that far from my bedtime. If you go to
Yeah.
bed at midnight, that's probably like too big of a stretch, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
7 p.m. I go to bed like 8:30, try to start
Yeah.
winding down. And that, I'm sure everyone's heard 1,000 times, that light in your eyes, so bad for sleep. So
Yeah.
bad, right? We know that. I will never ever take my phone in bed and scroll social media ever. So at this point, that's easy for me to do.
Okay.
I know that's a place where people get really hung up sometimes, is trying to fall asleep, scrolling. Oh my God, terrible for you. So I
Yeah.
don't do that anymore. I read a book, right? And I always have kind of read, so that wasn't that hard. But seeing that cutoff of 7 p.m., and no more Netflix, no more phone, no more computer, it's hard. It's hard, right?
Yeah.
So bringing that forward to 7 a.m. now, because I write in the mornings is a great time to write. I get up about 5 a.m. and that's a nice time to write. So the deal with myself is if I'm going to engage in a deep work project, like writing or figuring something out very difficult, then I can get on my computer and do that, but still no phone till 7 a.m.
Mm.
Right. Now there's days, of course, I have to like, I don't know, travel. I got to like leave the house by 6 a.m. Okay. That's a little different, whatever. So I'm talking about most days here.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. The other thing that I think is so critical is not having your phone in front of you where you can see it when you're
Mm.
trying to work and also when you're trying to connect with people. Oh my God.
Mm.
Just it dry. The downside of becoming a digital minimalist or being on the journey is that it really starts to aggravate you when you're trying to connect with someone and they are
Oh
on their
yeah.
phone. It's so
Oh
fucking
yeah.
rude. Like, I can't even stand it anymore.
Oh,
You
dude,
know,
I'm telling you, it's hard. It is hard because so I have had my phone perpetually on some form of do not disturb for the
yeah.
last probably 10, 15 years. Okay.
Nice.
Like
Nice. Excellent.
so it's funny because when we're talking about digital minimalism, I'm like, oh, I guess I didn't really know the term, but like I've kind of been doing a lot of this stuff myself already.
Great.
And so I can totally agree with you. It is very, very hard because you also like don't want to judge people for it, right?
Right.
Because it's like it's not like a moral failing. It's more just that it is very frustrating when you're present and like the someone across from you, like you're talking, and then all of a sudden they pick up their phone and you're like, I'm still talking. I know you're not listening. Like I know you're not because you're clearly reading
Yeah.
something. I was like, I guess I'll just
Yeah.
stop mid sentence. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it can be very frustrating.
Well, there was an academic paper that just came out called The Brain Drain, and it shows that if your phone or even someone else's phone is on the table, even face down, your attention is fractured. You are just stupider, right? Same if your phone is
Wow.
next to you when you're working. And it's hard because I know you and I probably have to, we're using cross, using the phone, computer content stuff, right? But as much as you can, to have the phone out of sight is very important. And yeah, for
Interesting.
people, I mean, just as a personal aside, I had a relationship start to actually tank because we were long distance. We didn't get that much time together. And so let's say it's once a week and he couldn't turn his notifications off. So that's another thing. You become so much more sensitive to that sound when I also haven't
Mm,
had notifications on for ages, right? That was even way
yeah.
before all this stuff. Because it's just fucking sorry,
No, I agree.
it's
It's
just
annoying.
It's very distracting, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
annoying. It's just annoying. So
It's
I
when
never
I'm
had
around people who have notifications on, I was like, I forgot my phone does that because I
I
literally always keep my phone. So I always have it on some
know.
form of do not disturb, meaning
Yeah,
like, I don't know if people know, but like on iPhone, it's like called focus now. And you can
right.
adjust, like, it's kind of like like, okay, there's nothing's coming through, or like here, these few things can come through, or
Exactly.
everything's coming through. But even
Yeah.
with that, my phone is on silent. It only vibrates. Even if there's some notification coming through, it's only going to vibrate. So when I'm with someone and their
Ah.
phone like ding, I'm like, wait, what?
So so
Who are you?
we'd be in the middle of like, our relationship started to go downhill for other reasons, but we'd be in the middle
Yeah,
of these like challenging conversations. His phone is face up, lighting up, making
yeah,
sounds. And I'm like, can you put this away for a minute? And he's like, well, I've got a business. I'm like, yo, homie, I've got a business too. Like, this is not an
yeah,
excuse, right? Like,
yeah. No,
I want it to be, humans first. When people think about how to interact with people now, think about the person that's directly across from you, right? And how can you
yeah,
connect with them? And the most heartbreaking, I'd say, is, parents and children.
yeah,
Like, again, not to bring it back to the kids, but, parents, I work with a lot of adults and they talk about their kids' use and like, well, do you have a handle on your own use? Are you
yeah,
using your phone around your kids?
yeah,
So yeah, so I think you make a great point that the less distraction you can have in your moment to moment with those sounds and whatever, do that. My mom was having some health issues for a while, so I had her as a breakthrough caller. So
okay,
she called or my stepdad called, they can come through. That's
yeah,
fine. And I would never, ever have notifications on, when I'm trying to sleep. But if there's an emergency, they can break through. So that there's cool things you can do, like set
yeah.
these things, up in your iPhone and presumably Android as well.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. Well, I think everyone can agree that there's like got to be notifications they're getting that are not anywhere near urgent or important. And so it's like even just putting some sort of filter in place, right? To be like, "Hey, okay, fine. All text messages, all phone calls can come through. That's it." Right? Everything
Yeah.
else like come on, like it's not that important. Or if you're like, "Oh, I have a business and I run it on Instagram." Okay, Instagram notifications too. But like you're getting more than that, right? And so even just being willing to be like, I'm going to put some filter on it. Because look, this is okay. So this is what I was thinking about when we were talking about this. Because you're like, it could be hard when you're trying to do this or
Yeah.
trying to do that. I heard this phrase like a few years ago, and I just loved it. And it's trying is lying. And so I actually wrote a book. One of the books that I wrote, it's called Habit Hacks, and
Nice. Cool.
that was one of the things I talk about in there is like this trying is lying thing because we say like I'm trying to do whatever, and it's like, well, you're not actually doing that thing, you're just trying to do that thing.
Mm,
And I'm not saying that you should lie to yourself, but what I'm saying is that like if you, because I've done this for such a huge part of my life, and I don't know if other people do this or not, but I create little like rules for myself in my mind, right? Like I'll be like, just like how you said, I'm not picking up my phone until 7 a.m.
hmm.
Right. Like for me, I have like things like I'm trying to think of a good example of this. Like there were times, maybe it's TMI, but it's not all the time. But people are usually when they're in the bathroom, that's a lot of times they're
Yeah.
scrolling on their phone.
Yeah.
And so
Right.
I used to like periodically I'll be like, I'm tired of doing that. I don't want to do that anymore. And so I'll be like, when I'm in the bathroom, I'm not allowed to pull my phone out of my pocket. Right.
Yeah.
And or something like
Right.
that.
Right.
And I
Right.
don't know if other people do that or not, but that's just how I just create a rule, like an if this, then like,
Hmm.
then that statement in my head. And so I will just follow that thing. I'm saying all this to say that I think it's possible to have a statement that you can say with
Yeah.
certainty without saying that you're trying, but just make it something that you for sure can do so that you're saying it, right? And it could be something very, very little, right? Where it's like, I'm going to take, or like, I take 3 deep breaths when I wake up before I pick up my phone. Right. Even if
Yeah.
that's what you're doing instead of like, well, I'm just not going to look at my phone until 7 a.m. It's like for some people that might be impossible. And all they're going to have to say is, I'm really trying to not look at my phone until 7. It's like, so you're not doing it then. Like you're trying to
Totally.
do it versus you can pick like little things like in
Yeah.
between where it's like, so a true statement instead of like, I'm trying to
Mhm.
do XYZ. It's like I'm in the process of becoming a digital minimalist. right?
Absolutely.
So it's like
Yes.
it's still a true statement, but you're not lying to yourself that you're trying to do this thing. And then and each little thing can be true as well, right? So if I'm trying to not look at my phone till 7, it's like, no, I take 3 deep breaths when I wake up before I pick up my phone. And then slowly you kind of expand out words towards like what you're ultimately trying to accomplish, if that makes sense.
Absolutely, yeah, and I love that technique. There's a lot of debate around how to do this or like any habit,
Sure,
right? Really
sure.
well. But I really like this. Like when I I haven't drank maybe in 6 months, and like, it wasn't it felt like something that was within my grasp to manage. I just wasn't like coming about it the right way. And, you know, I think like that is I think what is it called? Identity
Mm,
habit formation, right? Where
yeah.
you are creating the identity of the person. So it's funny because like, I was never a person that would wake up and take some shots of vodka in the morning. So it's like you could say to yourself, like, I'm not the kind of person that wakes up and scroll social media in bed, whatever. Like, I'm not the kind of person that
Mm.
wakes up and does some lines of coke, and and then and then you're like,
uh,
then you expand that out, and
yeah.
I think bringing in the core values is a great way to do it. Like, you can say, I am the kind of person that deeply values the person that's in front of me, that values
Yeah.
connection, that values, this experience right now.
Yeah.
And I think if you can frame it that way, the type of person that you are, the identity, you know, that really helps, because right now I'm saying to myself, I am the kind of person that's writing a book. I am
Mm.
the kind of person that wakes up and cares about how I set my day up, because I know this is like this is
Mm.
important for success for me. None of that
Yeah.
includes my phone, right?
Yeah.
You
Well,
know?
it also gives you leeway, right? Because no one's going to stick with it perfectly.
Yeah.
And but you could say I'm the type of person who values in-person interactions and doesn't allow for distraction, right? But
Yeah.
still, every once in a while your phone goes off and you check it, and that doesn't mean that, oh no, I broke it, right? No, you're still that type of person. Is that true? Do you still value
Absolutely.
in-person
Yeah.
interaction? Do
Of
you
course
still
I
care
do.
about? Yes, of course I do. Okay,
Yeah.
great. So that's something like you said, the identity thing makes a lot of sense as well, when it comes to
Yeah.
like changing your habits, because it's like it allows for the imperfection of doing new habits. It's funny because that's actually one of the things I talk about too, as well, is that like people get, and this is myself included, this was my experience, is that people beat themselves up so much when they don't do what they say they're going to do, that it's
Yeah.
like it's worse for you to be beating yourself up this much than it is for you to just forget that you even messed up and just move on. And so like I love that identity part, because that's 100% it. Like you can still be the type of person who values in-person interaction, and every once in a while you mess up and get distracted or look at your phone or something, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And also, like, sometimes I have an event I'm running and like my phone has got to be on
Exactly.
ringer mode, yeah, like, and I have to take it. I do need to be checking text, whatever. I would try not to probably schedule like a deep conversation with someone if I was in the middle of doing something like that. But yeah, and it's so yes, perfection, progress over perfection, right?
Yeah,
And
exactly.
you can sabotage yourself so quickly, right? And I think I one of the ways I like is just pushing against it just a little bit more each day. So I still run them, but I will say I was running these screen free Sunday challenges, and that's
Mm,
24 hours off screens. And at first I thought this was really stupid. I was like, well, everyone can do this. This isn't really a challenge. And then I realized no one can do this.
yeah.
Even if they are digitally minimalism curious, even if they have good boundaries, like, was one of my friends pays for stuff with her Apple Watch, so she's like, well, I can't get into do the thing, like, it's just also, I think it's a great practice still to see how integrated screens and tech is with your life,
So true.
because if you can't do your grocery shopping without your phone or your watch or whatever, like, whew, and that maybe that's the way you want to live your life, or maybe it's not, and so
Yeah.
it's just good
Yeah.
to test it. But
Yeah.
I
It's
am
exactly it. It's just
grappling.
about being intentional, right?
Yeah.
Like, so, okay, because what you were saying is, I was thinking myself, my driver's license is in my Apple Wallet,
Uh-huh.
and my all of my credit cards are in my Apple Wallet, and my phone obviously is my phone. So like I have always been the type of person who carries my wallet and keys with me everywhere I
Yeah.
go. but like my house has like a keypad. So I'm like, I could literally just leave the house with my phone now. And I don't. I still take my wallet and keys with me. But it's one of those things where you're like, this is kind of crazy. Like, I live in this like weird reality now where I'm like, I always thought I was going to have to always have my wallet on me because no matter what, right? Even if
Mhm.
I could pay, with something else, no matter what, I'm still going to have my ID on me, right? Like, or my driver's license in case I get pulled over or something. And it's like, now literally it can all be on your phone. And so it's because that was the first thing I thought of when you said, oh, 24 hours with no phone. I'm like, look, I can have very strong boundaries around my phone, but like I don't think I could do 24 hours without my phone. And I'm not saying that from a place of, oh, I just can't, I wouldn't survive without it. What I mean is just that
Yeah,
it would be more of an
it's integrated.
inconvenience than I feel like the benefit it would be to just have really strong boundaries, if that makes sense.
Totally. And that's great because that's like your own ethos. Like
Yeah.
it's, you value simplicity and just having your phone on you is easier than like
Mm,
keys, wallet, whatever. But I think the problem for a lot of people could be that it's not an inert uh tangible item. Like you would never be out in public just like hanging out looking at your wallet all for in line like across the
exactly.
table from someone. You wouldn't just be
Yes.
rifling through your wallet, right?
Exactly.
So your
Exactly.
wallet being with you, I think for one, maybe not for you, but for a person could be, just so much more problematic to have your phone on you than like your wallet and your keys, right? And there's these different practices I do. Like I have a full focus planner, it's a paper planner, and I have a Google Calendar, right?
Yeah.
And for I'd say, no presumptions about you, but for me, Google, the digital calendar is critical, because things get populated in. We make these appointments, they come in,
Oh
and like,
yeah.
I
If
mean,
it's not, I always say if it's not on my calendar, it's not happening.
yeah, and I schedule in, workouts, meals, unstructured time, all kinds of shit, right?
Yep.
But I also keep that full focus planner because for me, there is some replication, duplication across those two things, but
Yeah.
for me, it is very important for me to be able to still exist in the physical realm. So I will never, I don't want to say never, I try not to say that word, but I don't plan to ever own a Kindle. I do a ton of backpacking. You
Mm,
can have a gajillion million books on a Kindle that's so light. All the backpackers love them, but I will carry that paperback with me up a mountain because for me, part of my ethos is just existing in an embodied tangible space,
mm,
Yeah.
yeah. Hey, it's Giuliano. I'm just popping in here to say how much I appreciate you being here listening and that I hope you're enjoying the show. The more support that the show gets, the more episodes can be produced. And if you can only support by sharing or leaving a review, I appreciate that so much. But if you're the type of person who would like to support the show directly, visit howtobeaperson.co and click support the show. Every bit of support means the world to me, and even more so those who do so monthly. No matter what, I appreciate you being here listening. I love what I do, and it's because of people like you who listen to the show that I get to keep doing it. Thanks again so much for being here. All right, back to the episode. Yeah, it's so funny. I've been the same for a very, very long time. And like when it comes to books, and it's almost too like I feel like books are also like trophies because like when you finish them and you put it on your shelf, it's kind of like
Yeah.
I read that book, And so I was very much the same until maybe just a few months back where I was like, oh my gosh, I'm on my phone all the time. It would just be easier. Like it would be easier for me to read more
Mhm.
if my books were on my phone, because then I now when I open my phone I have a choice. Am I going to read or am I going to scroll?
Yeah.
So instead of
Right.
like instead of trying to prevent myself from going on my phone, it's like, what am I doing when I go on my phone? Am I going to open up social
Yeah.
media or am I open up the Kindle app? And now I mean, not all the time, but like a lot of times I'm opening up the Kindle app because I go, oh yeah, I should be reading. If I have time to scroll, I have time to read, and I'm reading
Well,
this book right now, so I should jump into it. But
I
it just
haven't
goes
heard
back to
that.
what you were saying before
Yeah,
about
that's interesting.
intention, right? That's
Yes.
all it is.
Yeah.
It's not saying, hey, this is a bad thing, because just like we talked about, there's so honestly, we live in such an amazing time. Like, because of
Yeah.
technology, there's so many things that are available to us, whether it's information or tools and productivity, all that stuff. It is incredible. But it's just simply about what is your intention? like you said, you kind of create your own ethos of like, what is it that I want my life to look like,
Yeah.
instead of just letting your phone steer your life. Cause that's really what it is for a lot of people, is like they're turning on the TV and watching Netflix for 3 hours, or they're opening up their phone and they're gone
Mhm.
until it's time to go to bed, I guess. Right. And it's like, that's where like, it's essentially leading your life instead of you being like, this is just an aspect of my life.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And I think one way to figure out your own way of being is to experiment, like kind of like what you're saying with the phone on the of the book on the phone. Like that's really interesting. I hadn't heard that because you could, when you go on your phone now, it's sort of like, well, you've got your books on there, so there's no reason to do just a bunch of scrolling session instead of reading, right? So that's really
Exactly.
interesting. Yeah.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
I have not been as strict with this lately, just because I haven't felt like I needed to. But I also was scheduling time to scroll. There was a
Yes.
period of time where I was like, hey, I'm going to give
Mm-hmm.
myself, let's say 20 minutes a
Yeah.
day. And I
Yeah.
would just open up my timer app, set 20 minutes, and I could just go scroll. I would go run through all my social media apps, catch up on stuff, whatever. And I would do the same thing with my email. It's like, hey, I have, 10 minutes to go catch up on my email, and then that's it. Um,
I
and
think that's
yeah,
amazing. Batching your digital use
yep.
and your digital tasks, I think is so incredible. And yeah, exactly what you said. So I'm working on towards, having the phone is a little bit more easy because I've been working on this for a long time, but the email, whew, if you're working on your computer, the email is tough. I have clients, I've got five different emails, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
so it's sort of like that one's tough, but to batch it where you are going to, well, let's go back to the phone. So sitting down and saying, okay, I'm going to give myself, even it can be a while, it can be like an
Oh yeah.
hour, right?
Yeah.
I'm,
Whatever
I'm
you
going
want
to
it to be.
yeah, I'm going to respond to texts. I'm going to scroll. I'm going to, just do any, like I have a whoop strap. So for a fitness tracker, I have a
Mm.
whip strap, which is like honestly kind of annoying because there's no screen, which means there's no clock. And so I'm like, I'm gonna have to like wear a watch on this other hand because one thing I don't want to do is like just be checking my phone for the time and
Yeah.
then you text come in, whatever, right? But anyway, so batching the time to look at the app of the whip strap, which is a phenomenal app, like love it, right?
Yeah.
But just to sit down and do that with intention, timer goes off, you're done. Then you move
Yeah.
on to the rest of
Yeah.
the day. And I'll just give you a personal example. So right now I'm in uh no scrolling, no streaming November, so I'm calling it no scrolling November. Totally failed at the no scrolling, excuse me, because those are two pretty serious things to try to combine and just take away,
Sure.
right?
Sure.
And
Yeah.
Cal Newport talks a lot about when you first start to do this, if you're, especially if you're not used to sitting in silence or being bored, you're going to
Mm.
need to replace this with something, right? And he talks a lot about high quality hobbies, which usually have something to do with your hands, right?
Mm.
So that can be woodworking or quilting or cooking or whatever it is, but things that you would replace the scrolling with, because if you just try to take it away, it can be pretty challenging, right?
Mm.
But for your life, these are things that are going to be beneficial for your mental health, for your sense of fulfillment. You can see things that are happening and getting done right in front of you. It doesn't even have to be for a purpose. You don't have to be making a table to gift or whatever, just fiddling around. But anyway, so I'm doing, I took away streaming, so no TV basically for all of November. And it's been a lot easier because I have relied on audiobooks. But the thing that I've noticed is that it has been helping me to get out of the house, right?
Mm.
Because the options are sit and like listen to the audiobook and hang out and cook dinner and like, okay, or schedule something with a friend and go have dinner with a friend, right?
Yeah.
Go to a restaurant, but I really am committed to not scrolling while I'm at a restaurant. So then I'm like hanging out and like chatting like we used to do in the old days, chatting with the people around me, with the staff. I'm like, oh, wow, there's a whole world out here that I
Uh,
forgot about, right?
yeah. No, that's what I was talking about before. Is I think, and again, this is not coming from a place of judgment because I've done it myself, but it's like I think it's really, really easy to disconnect from the real world when you spend so much of your time in the digital world, and you kind of forget that it's like that's not the actual world, right? Like if you
Yeah.
go live in the real world and just like you commit to just existing in it, it's like this is a pretty awesome place, man. It's a pretty great place to be. So we just had, my wife and I just had a baby like 5 months ago. Tomorrow he'll be 5 months old. And I am thinking about this with him because I'm watching him and he's just existing, right? Like he doesn't have
Mm,
a phone. He doesn't, I mean, he doesn't understand the concept of like, oh, I'm bored. So let me pull out my phone and scroll. Like that's not a thing for him. Right. And I think back to when I was a kid and not his age, right? Cause I can't remember that far back, but I think back to when I was a kid and I'm like, oh yeah, like I didn't have a phone. What was I doing? Because right now, doesn't it almost feel like, first of all, I think so many people feel like, man, I just don't have enough time in the day. But then if you like were to like pull out all of the times that you spend scrolling, it's actually almost like you have too much time and that's why you're scrolling so much.
yeah.
And then when you stop scrolling, you're like, wait, what do I do? Wait a second. I didn't realize I was filling in all of the gaps in my day with my phone. And
Right.
then you pull it out and you're like, oh my gosh, I actually have so much time. And by the way, what did I even do when I was a kid? I would just stare at the wall. Like I think about little moments that I'm like, I remember like there was like this tile in the bathroom, like this pattern of tile that it's just like etched in your brain. And I think there's probably other people who have experienced this as well. There's like parts of your childhood house that are just etched into your brain. And it's like, it's because you weren't doing anything. Like all you had was
Yeah.
your eyesight and touching stuff and like exploring your house. And so all you would do is just stare, right? And it like makes this like massive imprint in your brain. Like I can remember the smell and like the feel of the curtains in our
Mm,
living room when I was a kid because you're not distracted by anything. And I would just exist and you
yeah.
would examine stuff for like absurd amounts of time. And like there's even memes online, right, of people watching, like they make jokes about 90s kids where you're like, oh yeah, remember we used to watch the raindrop on the window while your parents were driving and you're just watching them and the two raindrops are racing against each other. Or like they talk about, you understand what I'm saying? It's like little things like that where
Absolutely.
you're like, yeah, I kind of forgot about that. When I was a kid, it was like you actually took time to just observe and just be present. And I mean, I don't think anybody would sit here and say that, that they weren't better off that way.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Yes, I love this. And I know we're talking about it in a little bit of a joking way, but this is actually like a critical point
Yeah.
is that the ability to do things like that is has almost been rendered impossible, right?
Mm,
And this is something that I really want to work on in my own life is the ability to be bored, although I don't used to call it boredom as much. We would just be able to sit and be with our thoughts,
yeah.
right? And this is something that I'm like I'm working hard on, and that is like when I'm driving to because sometimes I'm listening to a podcast or music, and
Yep.
I'm like fighting against it almost because I'm trying to figure out something in my own mind,
Yep.
and I'm like, okay, just turn it off for an hour. You've got
Yep.
4 hours of driving,
Yep.
and so I'm working on how can I create more space where I'm just with my thoughts. And I've been working on, I do a lot of paddle boarding in the summer. I've been working on being on my paddleboard and just staring at the trees.
Mm,
And there's almost like this little hump, like if you do a cold plunge or something, you've got to just like kind of push through that
mm,
initial,
yep.
very uncomfortable feeling. And this is kind of the same. You just get
Yeah.
over that little hump, and on the other side is just phenomenal shit. Like
Yep.
whatever is happening in your own brain. And this is another reason that kids are struggling so much because they don't have any space to work things out for themselves in their brains,
Mm,
like staring at the raindrops like you were talking about. It was about the raindrops because that's a cool image that you were describing, but it's also about just kind of processing, maybe what had happened that
yeah.
day, what's going on with your
Yeah.
parents, like
I
your
was just
life.
talking to somebody else about this is why I think ASMR has become a thing is because it's essentially that. But instead of just doing it in your real life, you're like, I'm gonna watch a video of somebody doing this. But it's like that's what ASMR is, right?
Yeah,
It's like keen
right.
observation of small details, whether it's
Yeah.
sounds or feels or whatever. And you're like, dude, you could just do that.
Yeah,
Right?
you could
I didn't even know what it was for a long time. And then I'm watching, I'm like, bro, this is just what I used to do as a kid when I didn't have a phone. Just go exist. Why are you
Oh
watching this video? Just go do
oh
it,
my
you know?
god. Oh
And
my god.
like,
Yeah. Well, real quick, during COVID, I had a boyfriend that really wanted me to get into video games, and I
okay,
liked him so much that I was like, I guess I'm willing to give it a shot. So I'm
yeah.
like playing a video game about making a garden because he was trying to find ones that I would like. So I'm playing this video game about
Yeah.
growing a garden, and I'm like, I actually have a garden. I need to
Yeah.
go grow. Like I need
Yeah.
to tend to my physical garden right now. And
Yeah.
instead, I'm like doing it in the digital space. Like, what the
Yeah.
fuck?
That's
I gotta get
exactly it.
inside. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
exactly it. And I loved what you said before because I did that this morning. Okay. Because I'm the type of person as well. Like, I love listening to podcasts, and I feel like well, not I feel, there is an infinite number of podcasts that you could be listening to at any given time, like different podcasts, but also episodes within the podcasts that you like. Like, you could
Yeah.
literally listen to a podcast every moment of every day for the
Yeah.
rest of your
Oh
life,
yeah.
and you will
Absolutely.
never get through it all until you die.
And you'd learn
And
so much, right? Yeah.
yes, and so
Yeah.
that's why it feels like, even if it's not something that, like, social media, you could be like, it's brain rot. But like, first of all, on social
Mhm.
media, if you've curated a pretty decent feed, it could actually be really valuable. And
Same.
also, if
My
you're
feed is like primo
yes,
for
so that's what
learning.
I mean.
Yeah.
It's not that it's just all bad. The point
Right.
is that you don't have this time to yourself. And like this morning, I felt that. I was like, I need to work this the fuck out. Like, there was
Yeah.
something that was going on in
Yeah.
my brain, and
Yeah.
I was like, just like, one of the things I do in the morning, like the first thing is go do the dishes from the previous night, and I will set my phone up, start the
Mhm.
podcast, and listen to it while I'm doing the dishes. And I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, I can't. Like, I need to just.
Yeah.
I put my phone in my pocket, and I was just doing the stuff, and then I hadn't finished. So I just was like, I just sat in the living room. I just sat there and was like, right. And I'm just sitting there thinking about it and like working through
Yeah.
it in my brain. And it's like, man, it's so funny because I feel like I'm so intentional about this. And I still
Mhm.
get to that point where I'm like, damn it, how did I get to this point where like I just was filling my brain with external stimuli,
Yeah.
and I wasn't able to work this thing out because of that.
Yeah.
And yeah,
Yeah.
no, so I just sit here and think, damn, if there's people who are not being intentional about this, like, I get why people have anxiety, why people have depression, why people feel like
Yeah.
their life is pointless, why they find it hard to connect with other people. It's like,
Yeah.
again,
Yeah.
not a judgment, right? Like I just said, I'm succumbing to it as well. It's not a judgment, but it's like, it just means you have to be more intentional. Like,
You
life
do.
is meant to be lived. And unfortunately, like, the fact of the matter is that, like, when we are consuming anything
Mhm.
digital, I will say it's like that is a lesser form of living your life, because it
Yeah.
could be you could be consuming that information through a direct conversation with someone. You could be
Reading a
listening to
book.
that
Yeah.
music from a
Right.
live instrument, from someone playing that instrument.
Yeah.
And like, I'm
Yeah.
not saying that it's always like, I mean, because obviously I love listening to music. I love listening to podcasts. I'm not
Yeah.
demonizing those
Same.
things. What I'm saying is
Mhm.
that we have to understand that all of those things, no matter how valuable they are and how much we enjoy them, they are a lesser form of that, of an exact replica in reality. It's like you are
Exactly.
choosing the lesser form of
Right.
reality when you do
Like
that.
making a garden on a video game versus growing my actual garden, right?
Yes.
Yeah. But there's a
Yes.
point I want to make that's so critical, and this isn't going to surprise you, but it just helped me to hear it in word form. What is that? Similar to one of the when I chose to stop drinking as much, right? One of the things I read that scared the absolute shit out of me was that one of the issues is when you have, call it fake dopamine, right? So alcohol induced dopamine, digital scrolly type dopamine, this kind of cheap dopamine.
Yeah.
When you have that coming in all the time, every day, it makes other things less pleasurable,
Mm,
such as having a conversation with someone one on one in person, such as, going for a walk, such as paddleboarding, even cool things, right? It's like,
yeah.
so not only is it more challenging to sit and sort of be bored, it's actually more challenging and perceived as less pleasurable to do normal ass shit, just being
Mm,
with your family, whatever. And
yeah.
I could feel that. And I think we can understand that because we've experienced
Yeah.
that, right? It's like you have that compulsion to scroll, even if you're doing something that's like kind of nice, just like cooking or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Or having a
Yeah.
conversation. And that was very scary for me,
Yeah.
because I want to be able to feel content, going for a walk without my phone, without listening to podcasts or music. And there's another point I want to make that I think you were speaking to, and that is, you know, let's say we conceptualize a spectrum of good content, like crappy content,
Sure.
damaging content, good content, right?
Yeah.
And so I was very proud of myself when I first started listening to podcasts. And there was one podcast that legit changed my life.
Yeah.
Changed my life, right? And I started listening to podcasts that, all about personal development, business, learning stuff, right? And I was so proud of myself. And I was telling this woman this, and I was like, oh, I just found these amazing podcasts. And I'm doing all this learning, and she was like, be careful, be careful. It's easy to trick yourself into thinking that you are doing something productive when
Mm.
you are taking in so much content, like good,
Mm.
good content, or if
Yeah.
your algorithm and your feed are like locked in and like all this stuff's very useful on Instagram, you're like, yeah, but I'm like doing something. And if you're trying to bring out something into the world, like writing a book, launching your
Mm.
business, creating, let's say, what you've created, it's sort of like, it almost feels like you're doing that when you are consuming good content that's full of information. But I guess what I try to do is help people balance the scales, right? Are
Mm.
you creating as much as you're consuming? Even if it's like good, even if you're learning stuff, even if it's helping you, you still need to be bringing your own voice, your things into the world, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It's so funny. One of the books that I wrote, I specifically was like, I am not going to consume any content around this topic while I write this book. And
Yeah.
previous to writing the book, I
Hmm.
did that on purpose because I was like, I don't want any voice. And it was probably for a different reason, but
Yeah. 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 No.
I totally get what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Um, and the other thing too, man, sorry, there was something else you said and I lost it. It's okay. That's okay.
Yeah. No, and that's a great point too, is that there's so many voices now that it's easy to lose your own voice,
Mm,
right? And
yeah.
and sometimes it's tough to know, did I come up with this idea, or did I just hear this, or am I missing my key? Like, I don't
Yeah.
know. I'm not trying to plagiarize here, but like it's hard to know because you're spending so much less time with your own ideas, right?
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
tough because we can be so inspired by so many people online, and like it's so cool to live in a time when you can find, I mean, I have so many mentors, in the digital space. Like, oh, this is so incredible. But the danger is, are you bringing forward what's in your own brain, and on your own heart as
Mm,
well, right?
yeah. Yeah. There's this tendency to be like, well, these other people have the answer and I need to follow their method or their path or whatever. And obviously, right, like, right, if you're doing coaching and stuff, that's kind of what you're offering to people. And I do the same and I have done the same. So it's not a judgment of that, but like, it is true, right? That I think it could be like this thing where we're just like, oh, everyone else has the answer and everyone else has like
Yeah.
somebody else always knows better than me. And like, I should be following, someone's step-by-step path or whatever it might be. And it's also like, well, well, you have this inner knowing yourself of like where you should go, and you need to be able to trust yourself. And what's interesting to me is that information is really only as useful as you can put it into practice.
Yeah.
So when you talk about create like the balance of creating and consuming, it's kind of like, cool, you're consuming all this stuff, but like if you're not using it, you realize like it's kind of pointless, right? So if you're spending all your time just consuming it, then I know you're not applying
Yeah.
it.
Well, that's such a salient point, because that was literally what I was doing at that moment. I wasn't doing anything in my business.
Mm,
I was just thinking about doing stuff,
yeah.
because I'd heard and listening, consuming and thinking, literally taking no action because it felt like I was taking action.
Yeah.
Because, the thing is to realize too is that even with podcasts, which it's established we both love, right? Even with a really sweet Instagram feed, even audiobooks, whatever, and even Netflix, the whole time that you're consuming this, your brain is still actually working pretty hard, right?
Mm.
It's not a break. So if you're scrolling,
Yeah.
and I there's a debate right now that people that might need to regulate their nervous system, scrolling can help them do that. And some really smart therapists are saying this. I disagree because
I am always going to make this face to that statement. Are you sure about that?
yeah,
You sure
because
about that?
yeah, I agree. It can kind of put you into this like zonked out zombie state for sure, right? But your brain is still actually working pretty hard. It has to process a lot of stuff when you're watching Netflix, when you're scrolling, even when you're reading a book, but so much less so because it's at this pace. You can only go so fast as your eyes can go, right? And so you're consuming content if you're reading a book, sure, but it's at this more humanized pace. And so the point is when you want to like rest or zonk out, people think, oh, well, if I can watch Netflix for a couple hours or scroll or whatever, I'm going to be more rested. And one of the arguments that Cal Newport makes very strongly is that that is not high quality rest for your brain.
Yeah.
That is not going to help you sleep better, feel more rested, be able to, to think and produce. It's just more draining. And the things that seem hard, right? Like if you were to go work on a project, if you were to do some writing, to do a woodworking project or whatever, it seems very onerous. Like after work you're tired, whatever. It's actually going to be more restful for your brain, in addition to obviously
Mm.
feeling more fulfillment in those activities, right?
Yeah. Well, I liked what you said before, and I've done this too. I don't do it perfectly, but I've done the same thing in the past where I'm like, okay, instead of scrolling on my phone, I will read, right?
Mm,
Like let's say before bed,
yeah.
specifically before bed. Um, and there's a lot of people, myself included, I think in the past, and other people I know that are just like, when I get home from work, I have to, right? I have to just like zone out in front of the
Yeah.
TV, and I'm like.
Yeah.
I think if you tried reading, you would realize that you don't, and that
Hmm.
you're actually just tired and need to go to sleep. But there's this like weird thing that it's weird for an adult to go to bed early. And I totally disagree with that. Listen, I'm telling you, as soon as the sun is down, I'm like, when am I going to bed? Cause I'm tired. And like right
Yeah.
now the sun goes down at like 6:30. Right. And I'm like, bro, I'm so tired right now. And I think there's obviously multiple factors going on there, but I do think that part of it is like this, like, I don't know, this strange thing about like adults like needing to go to like just not wanting to go to bed early. And they're like, oh, look, kids go to bed at 8 p.m. And I'm like, not me. I'm like, I mean, no joke. There are times where I go to bed and it's probably like 7:15 or 7:30.
Same Z's.
But that's the
Yes.
thing is like if you're tired, then go to bed, right? It's like
It's
don't sit down and like zone out watching Netflix. If you do something, this I think reading is a really, really good bridge from like I'm awake and I'm not sure, like, am I tired? To like, yeah, I'm tired, right? Yes, I'm
Yeah.
definitely tired. I should go to bed. And like that's why I'm saying people should read, not because it's like some morally superior thing to do over Netflix. It's just like, just do it. Okay. Like, just be like, you know what? I'm going to read for 15 minutes. Cause my guess is that you won't even make it to 15 minutes. You'll read and you'll be like, God damn it, I'm tired. I'm just going to go to bed. And it's like, that's what you should be doing anyway.
I love this point so much because I realized at some point in this journey that it was I was feeling very uncool about
Hmm.
going to bed early, about the 7 p.m. thing, as if I was like having this FOMO, I was feeling like kind of lame, and I like really had to work through that, right? Because I was
Yeah.
like, wait, why would staying up for the next 3 hours to watch a show that does nothing for me in terms of my life, my success, my brain? In fact, all the arguments we've made here today, would suggest the opposite.
The opposite. Yeah.
Why why am I feeling so lame? And then, when I started really embracing getting up early, I'm like, yo, I get up at 5 a.m. I have like written a blog post. I've gone to the gym. I had like, prepared all my stuff the night before. Cause when you get off screens at 7, well, shit, you like usually get really, really prepared for the next day. Right. So I'm
Yep.
all set up. I'm like in the day doing all this shit before people have even gotten up because what? They stayed up and zonked out until like midnight watching
Yeah.
shows. You know what I
No,
mean?
it's crazy to
Yeah.
me. It's crazy. And it's funny too, because sometimes people will be like, they want to go out and they're like, let's, well, we'll meet you, I don't know, like 7. And I'm like, I will literally probably, I might be asleep at the time you want me to meet up with you. That's not going to happen. And it's so funny. So like I started doing this, well, because I just go to bed early because I'm just tired. Like I got to a point where I
Yeah.
realized I'm like, I'm just tired. Why am I like staying up?
Right.
And I also just don't set an alarm anymore because
Same.
I don't
Yeah.
have to, because I
Exactly.
go to bed at a reasonable hour and I still wake up without an alarm way before most people ever do. And
Yep.
like you said, you go and I'm like, by the time other people are getting up, I'm like, I literally already had a bonfire and did all of my stuff. You know what I mean? Like I got so much done for the day and now I'm leaving for work and you're just like rolling out of bed. And it's like, I'm not saying it to be like, oh, I'm better. What I'm saying is
No.
like, you could do the same thing. Like you
Absolutely.
could literally live the exact same life. It's like you're choosing, and I say choosing lightly, right? Because again, I think we've all been influenced by all of this. But
Yeah.
it's like you have the power to make this choice, right? To be like, I'm going to be more intentional about how I'm interacting with these devices, and it can literally change the trajectory of your life. And one of the things you said before was how when you're getting these like these dopamine hits, that's almost like fake dopamine, right, from these lesser experiences, that these real life experiences are not as enjoyable. And what's interesting is that if you detox from that,
Hmm.
what you realize is that the real life experiences are way more enjoyable than the other ones. So it's not just like, oh, well, now they're
Yeah.
lesser. It's like, you don't understand. Those are better in the first place. You know what I'm saying? And so it's like if you're
Absolutely.
able to like set these boundaries, then you
Yeah.
have those experiences and you go, holy shit, this is way better than what I was feeling scrolling. This is way better than what I was feeling when I was watching that show or whatever it might be.
Yeah. 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 Whew. Well, I just want to make one point to what you're saying about being tired, and that is you can't tell that you're tired when your brain is has all these lights in front of it, right? When
Mm,
you're on your phone, when you're watching Netflix, your body can't actually regulate itself because yeah, I think a lot of us if you turn all your screens off, probably would realize, "Oh, I'm actually really tired. I'm just going to go to bed." Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah.
But to your point about the in-person connections and experiences and all of this stuff. Oh my gosh. And I have experienced that just in this last month. And again, this is someone who is dedicated to this,
Yeah.
but I have taken away streaming, and one of the scariest things I heard someone say once was she said I could either watch TV or I could have a successful business. And I was like, "Oh shit." And I bet she meant some of the ways that you and I are talking about where she didn't
Yeah.
mean she's working until 11 p.m. every single night on her business. I bet she meant she's going to
Mm,
bed early, she's getting up early, she's
yeah.
focused and has more brain power to execute, right? She's getting more sleep. I mean, sleep is so, so, so critical. And as I've, really tried to focus on it, I realized, oh my God, when I get less than 6 hours of sleep, I'm like, how was I functioning back
Yep.
then,
Yep.
with 6 hours and for no reason? Like the reasons were not because I had a newborn, but because I was just effing around on Netflix all night, or
Yep.
scrolling,
Yep.
whatever, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah,
So someone said this to me before too, and it was kind of it definitely had an impact on me. It's something I repeat now, like when I'm gonna watch TV, or if I'm thinking about, do I want to watch TV? And the question was like, do you care more about those characters' stories or your own?
yeah,
And that's like really what it comes down to is like, and it's not, again, it's not to say like I never watch TV. I do.
yeah, yeah,
I told you right before we started this, like my wife and I just binge watched the first half of the new
yeah,
season of Stranger Things. So I'm not saying I don't do that. Right.
yeah,
But the point is that if you are habitually
yeah,
choosing Netflix over your own life,
yeah,
again, the question is, whose story do you care about more? Like these characters or your own?
yeah,
And ultimately, like when I think if someone listening to this, like it's easy to that it sounds like we're like talking down, but it's not that. It's like you don't understand when you cut this out, you realize like this is you as well. Like
yeah,
you, as like every single human being, if you prioritized your own life over any of these things, right? Whether it's streaming or scrolling, like you would have this exact same experience. It doesn't mean anybody who does this is better than you. This
No,
is
no,
every single human being. If you were to prioritize your own life experiences over these digital experiences, it's like you would have this exact same effect where you go
yeah,
like, holy shit, my life is awesome. Life in general is awesome. And
yeah.
I'm excited to live that story.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I hope it doesn't sound like talking to anyone because I think you and I have both said that we both engage in these, devices, platforms, whatever.
Yeah.
There's a time and a place for it. Absolutely. I think we both established that it can be we the struggle is real, right? We've experienced that struggle. But yeah, the other night, because partially I'm like not doing any streaming this month, I was like, well, I was just like, there's this hip hop. I thought it was a hip hop dance party. I was like, okay, I go to bed legit at like 8 p.m., but I was like, it started at 8 p.m. I was like, well, I'll just be out there. Okay, whatever.
Yeah.
And I live in a pretty small town, so there's not like that many things going on like that. And so I go out there. It turns out it was like all these bands, actually live music. And I'm not
Mm,
even that into live music, but it ended up being incredible. And I was out super late and like also not drinking, which was just a whole new experience.
yeah.
And I went to bed late, but I like and I again I got up early and it was like none of that would have happened. I met all these artists that were so invested in their own art, their own lives, creating this incredible music,
Mm,
breakdancing, you know, like graphic artists, and they were just like so all in on that life, and it was just like a little slice of humanity that I probably would never have experienced because I'd be like, well, I'm watching a show from like 2015 full of these characters. And once I have a therapist friend, and she told me I cannot watch basically any fictional shows because I don't have any more emotional bandwidth to be invested in fictional characters' lives. Like I have to show up for my clients.
uh,
And it just like really highlighted the issue that we don't have infinite bandwidth,
yeah.
emotional attention, our ability to be present. It's not infinite, right? And her point was so powerful to me because it made me think about, okay, well, so she's a therapist, and so she has to really manage her energy. But for the rest of us as well, like you're getting invested
Yeah.
in these fictional characters.
Yeah.
And I wrote an essay on parasocial relationships as well, where, especially these shows that might go on for a long, long, long time, like The Office, and you watch over and over and over again.
Mm,
It's like you start to think of, let's say, Jim and Pam as your pals, you
mm,
know? And you literally start to kind of get invested in their lives, even if you know exactly what's going to happen because you've seen the fucking Office like 6 times, all
yeah.
the way through. You start to get invested. And that really does decrease the amount of bandwidth that you have to go meet your own Jim and Pam in the real
Yeah.
world, right?
Yeah. Man, it's so interesting. See, this is the thing is that it's kind of a sad reality, but what it seems is that it seems like people would rather consume these stories, right, than live their own life. And I feel like I keep having to say this caveat, but that's myself included. Okay, I get like
Yeah,
it's me
yeah.
too. Um, but it's like life isn't meant to be consumed, right? It's meant to be lived. And I feel like when we're consuming, it's almost like we're consuming other people
Yeah.
actually living their life. That's the
Yeah.
thing, right? The people, like all the stuff we're consuming is other people doing it. Like they're the ones who are actually going and doing the stuff. Like go do it, right?
Oh my
Don't just
God.
sit and consume it, but like go actually live it yourself.
And I get it. It's so I'm like back on the dating apps right now, and like it is so awkward. Like just meeting up in person, whew, you just have no clue what is going to happen, It's so wacky, but I am here for it because I want to have those experiences of like shit being awkward in real life, And it also just within myself. So again, not speaking down to anyone, but I can see how we lose that ability to just be with someone that we're meeting for the first time that we might not have everything in common with, trying to make conversation. I mean, in my course, I literally walk people through how to have a fucking conversation because I feel like we've kind of lost that ability. Like people have
Uh,
forgotten to ask other people questions, in like a one-on-one because we're so used to just interacting in this digital space. I think it's really affected our ability to connect
mm,
even in like a real basic way, like a
yeah.
conversation.
Yeah. Yeah. I was just
Yeah.
reading this article the other day that was talking about how, um, a lot of it because of the digital landscape that so many of our interactions are intentional. Whereas previously, so many of them would be kind of like you said, it just was happenstance, right?
Yeah.
You just happen to be in the same room as this person, and so that's the reason why you're connecting with them. And
Yeah.
so sometimes it's like we begin to like treat every interaction as if like there's a purpose to this interaction, and that is
Mhm.
the only purpose of it, right? And so it's like
Transactional, curated.
exactly,
Yeah. Yeah.
exactly, and so it becomes this thing where you, like you said, you're almost kind of like forgetting what it's like to just exist in the same space as another person and it being okay, either talking or not talking, or like exploring a topic, or like you said, not necessarily agreeing, but trying to see something
Mhm.
from the other person's perspective. It's like that requires, it's like what you said before about boredom, right? It's not about necessarily
Yeah.
boredom. It's just existing without an intention in that moment, right? Like just being. And there's so many things that pull us from that. You know what's so funny too is just I'm thinking about being in a space with another person, and there's so many spaces that you'll be in where there's also screens, right? And there's TVs and there's all these other
Mhm.
things. You're like, man, it's kind of nuts. Like you really do have to be intentional
Mhm.
about disconnecting yourself from those things if that's what you value. And I mean, to be
Yes.
honest, I think most people, whether even they realize it or not, they do value it. It's just like you said, you almost don't realize how much your
Mhm.
pleasure in these real life experiences is being depleted until you separate yourself from those digital ones, and then you go live the real ones and you're like, damn, this is awesome. And I think, yeah, I think more people need to do it.
Yeah, yeah, same. And just like we talked about a little bit, just experiment with it, right? Because I think once you have some valuable, interesting experiences out of the house, off of your couch, it does start to, I'd say like any habit you're building, right? Like once you start to see the gains, in the gym,
Yeah.
you're like, okay, okay, like I don't love this scene, but like, yo, I love being strong. And
Hmm.
once you start to see the benefits of getting full, I got 8 hours and 57 minutes of sleep last night, and I woke up feeling like a fucking champion.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it's amazing. I'm like, my 5 years ago self, I was like, I thought 9 hours of sleep was a dream.
Yeah.
Like, you would never get that much sleep unless you were sick. And I'm like, no, you get that much sleep when you start turning off your screens and going to bed, and the
Mm.
way you feel the next day is so different. But, so the point is like, start to have those positive reinforcements, and that can help you kind of build that habit, right? But it is, I think, at first it can be a little challenging, but the overarching thesis is that it is worth it. It is so 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 worth it, especially if you are trying to build in-person community, do something really cool in your life, write a book, whatever it is. But even if you're not, just for your own mental health and your own ability
Yeah.
to be present, and like, because it is a slippery slope too. Why push against it? Well, it's only going to get worse and worse and worse. Just like,
Mm.
honestly, if you're, doing the drugs or like drinking or whatever, it's like you're probably just going to need more of that substance to make it feel good. Samesies, right?
Yeah.
With the digital
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah. So, Kelsey, if anybody that's listening wants to connect with you and learn from you and have you help them, how do they do that?
Absolutely. Yeah. Thanks. So my website is Kelsey L Green, L like lemur, green, just like the color, Kelsey L Green. Instagram, same handle, Kelsey L Green. I'm on LinkedIn. And yeah, I run these screen free Sunday challenges. If that feels a little daunting, totally cool. I'm launching a little a little digital boundaries starter pack, a little mini course soon for people that just want to start to do little bits of this in their life. I have that mastermind that's for women creatives and entrepreneurs. And I have that course, How to Build Your Circle. And those will both launch in early 2026. So,
Mm,
yeah.
awesome. Well, Kelsey, this has been a really, really great conversation. I told you before we got on that, like, when I started this podcast, I wanted to just have organic conversations with people. And so I don't really know too much before someone comes on. And it's so funny. I feel like every time I have someone on, we just click so well. We go down these awesome rabbit holes.
Yeah,
And so, this episode was one of those as well. So,
absolutely. This has been so
I,
fun.
yeah, no, I'm really, really glad you came on. I appreciate you so much. And yeah, I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Same. You too. Thanks.
Thanks for being here. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a review or share it with someone who'd appreciate it. For everything I have to offer, visit howtobeaperson.co.